Regret is a trick that your subconscious mind plays on you to keep you from making meaningful change in your life. And whether you are holding on to hope that there is a chance to reconcile with your wife, or you know that you need to move on from your divorce, if you don't understand what regret is doing and how to work with it, it will hobble you and completely sabotage your efforts. Do any of these phrases sound familiar? I can't believe I didn't do this work while we were still together. She asked me to get help. She asked me to talk to somebody and I didn't do it. Why didn't I do this when I still had a chance, when she was still willing to work on this? I can't believe I messed this up. I can't believe I screwed this up, and now I have to do it all alone. I hear these words or some version of these words from almost every single client I work with. I'm a divorce coach for men, and in my coaching program, Better Beyond Divorce, I help men move forward with their lives. But so many of them run into this major stumbling block where they can't let go of what could have been if only they had noticed sooner, if only they had seen the signs, if only they had realized how serious it was before she walked out. For a lot of men, like my client Sean, those thoughts can be relentless. What Sean would experience was this just endless rumination, and his brain would show him all of these images of all the good times, all of the good memories with his ex-wife, all of the trips they had taken together, the adventures they had shared, all of these beautiful moments from their life would come up, and then these regretful thoughts would hit. And his brain would just be thinking, look at that, look at what you had, and you fucked it up. Right? You didn't see it. You didn't think it was as serious, but you should have seen it. Right? Why didn't you get your shit together sooner? Why didn't you notice the signs? How did you let this happen? It turns out that regret and self-judgment are bosom buddies. They build on each other, and the combination of the two, it can just tear you down. If you don't get a handle on these emotions, on these thoughts, if you allow regret and self-judgment to just take up residence in your brain, and they will, trust me, they will take up all of the space available. They will take you down this painful spiral into depression, despair, and for a lot of men, suicidal thoughts and actions. The secret to overcoming regret is to understand what it's really doing there in your brain. Your brain is not just torturing you for no reason. Now, a lot of people think that like the purpose or the positive intention of regret is to motivate you not to make the same mistakes again. Right? If I can remember how horrible this is and see all the ways that I messed up, then I won't fuck up in the same way in the future. But that's not quite it. Regret is actually the product of inertia in the brain. It is there to keep you from making a change. It's there to keep you in exactly the place that you are and exactly the place that you always have been. The human brain, while incredibly capable of changing and growing, doesn't like to do it. It associates change with danger. And this probably traces back to our evolutionary roots, right, to our ancestors, where, if you were somewhere and you were alive, you were relatively safe, right? If I'm in a dark, damp, uncomfortable cave, but there's enough to eat, and maybe it's pretty unpleasant, but I'm physically surviving, I don't want to venture out, because if I venture out there, I might get eaten by a lion, right? Or I might find an oasis. Right? So it takes a lot of courage, intention, and awareness to overcome inertia in the brain. The brain's default is going to be, let's stay the same. And now this, I don't want to make it sound like this is a weakness in you. It's part of the physiology of the human brain to avoid changing. And this is especially true if you have any history of trauma. And this doesn't have to be big trauma, capital T trauma, though it might be. Right? A lot of men going through divorce are also dealing with the aftermath of childhood abuse or sexual assault or neglect or abandonment. But it can also be little t trauma, right? A lack of emotional support as a child, feeling alone, feeling the weight of the world on your shoulders from a young age. When we have been through something really scary and painful, when we've been in danger or felt like our safe relationships were threatened as children, we learn how to survive that. And whatever we did to survive that tends to become quite rigid. And now we're functioning in a certain way. And that way might be really counterproductive to healthy relationships. Right? Maybe that way is to anxiously seek attention and affection. Or maybe it's to shut down and withdraw from conflict. Or maybe it's to lash out in anger and yell when we feel unsafe or threatened or attacked. Whatever it is that you do, that you did in your marriage that wasn't working, that was upsetting to your wife, that eventually created this rift between you, whatever your role in that was, At some point in your life, that strategy was the only thing you had. It was the only way that you survived a painful, whether it was physical or emotionally dangerous situation when you were young. And so not only does the brain not like to change, but it sees what you've been doing the way you are as essential for you to be safe, because it kept you safe then. And maybe you haven't learned any other ways of protecting yourself besides getting angry or shutting down or running after and anxiously seeking validation and attention. And so the brain doesn't really want you to change, right? You know intellectually that you need to change, that if there is going to be any hope of getting back with your ex-wife, you need to work on you. You need to change these patterns. You need to improve communication and empathy and emotional intelligence. Right? You need to make some changes in how you approach relationships, how you treat other people, how you treat yourself. Right? And you know that maybe if there is no chance of reconciliation, but you need to move on and you would like to have other relationships, if you don't want to be alone, if you want to feel loved and respected and have affection and a really healthy relationship with someone else, you also have to make these changes. Right? So you know that cognitively, but the emotional brain, that subconscious limbic brain, it doesn't want to change. It really wants to hold on to whatever you've been doing because it associates that with keeping you safe. And so this is what happens. This is what regret is doing in the brain. It is there to prevent you from making meaningful change, to keep you exactly the way that you are. And so look at what happens when you have all of these ruminating thoughts and this regret. Look what it actually does in your life. Your brain might say something like, look at how good you had it and you messed it up. It's all gone now. I should have done this work when I was with her. Right? She told me she wanted to work on it. I had a chance. And now what? Now she doesn't. And now I have to do this all alone. When you're thinking like that, when you're in regretful thoughts, how do you feel? Well, it usually takes you down that despair, depression, overwhelm. It feels like everything is just too much for you to handle. When you're overwhelmed, when you're in despair, what do you do? What actions do you take? Not many, right? You probably sleep a lot. You might eat too much, or you might not eat anything. Dramatic weight loss is really common for men experiencing regret. You might find it really hard to get out of bed or really difficult to go to sleep at night. It's hard to focus at work. It's hard to be present with your children or see any color in the world. It's hard to feel anything. You might find yourself quite numb. And when you're in that state, you don't do much except think about the things that you've messed up. So you're stuck in these ruminating thoughts, maybe these images and painful memories from the past. There's a lot of self-criticism and self-judgment. And look at all the things that you're not likely to do when you're in that state. When you're overwhelmed, when you're in despair, it's hard to get yourself to go to therapy. It's hard to sit down and work through a mindfulness course. Right? It's hard to read a book or listen to a podcast or show up to a group support session. And so look at how effective regret is at keeping you the same. Right? You didn't do the work on yourself when you were married, and you're not doing it now because you're so overwhelmed, you're in so much despair and so much pain that you can't get yourself to do those things now. Right? So regret is highly, highly effective. And you might look at this and say, wow, okay, regret is just keeping me stuck. That seems obvious, but do not underestimate how powerful regret is. I frequently, every single week, see men who are suicidal. They're afraid that they might kill themselves. They've given away all of their guns to a friend or locked them up somewhere and given the key to their hunting buddy. Right? They are genuinely afraid of themselves that they might kill themselves because the pain is so bad. And yet these same men, they skip their therapy sessions. They don't do the exercises in my Better Beyond Divorce course if they're members. They don't ask for help. They don't show up to their support group meetings. Right? The very things that will help them, they don't do, even though they are literally afraid for their own lives. And they'll say things like, well, I'm just kind of busy at work, or I've got a lot going on my plate right now with my kids. Imagine if you had injured your leg, and let's say it got infected with some crazy nasty bacteria that was really hard to kill. And the doctors told you, look, man, you're going to lose this leg. You might even lose your life, right? If this spreads, it's going to kill you. And the treatment is intense. It's going to be 12 weeks. You have to come into the clinic every single week and sit here for an hour and get this IV drip of antibiotics. And then in between those sessions, you have to do these exercises, right? There's a massage you have to do. maybe an ointment you have to put on it. It's going to be like 20 minutes. So you have to do this every single day. And if you don't do those things, you're going to lose the leg and you might die. Right? If the doctor came to you and said that, you would do the protocol, wouldn't you? Right? It seems like a no-brainer, like, oh, this is going to save my life. This is going to allow me to keep my leg. Okay, I'm going to do it. 1 hour a week, 20 minutes a day. Yes. But look at the power of regret. Regret sneaks into your brain and it says, man, you were such an idiot. I can't believe you hurt yourself in the first place. Why did you do that? That was really stupid. You really shouldn't have. And all of a sudden you're sitting there thinking about how you shouldn't have gotten injured in the first place, instead of going and getting your IV drip, instead of doing the exercises. This is exactly what happens during separation and divorce. Regret comes in and it's so strong and it's so distracting that you don't do the very things that would be life-saving. Fortunately, it is possible to overcome this mental inertia, even if you have a history of trauma and that safety by staying the same is a big part of it for you. It is possible to overcome all of that. So here are 2 examples of men who have done just that to give you a little bit of hope that even though regret is so powerful, you can get past it and the outcomes can be really good. So here's the first one. This is someone who's relatively early in the process of moving past regret. He says, well, I'm glad I am on this journey from the perspective that I know I am making huge strides from where I was 6 months ago. It has been painful, it has been hard, it has been humbling, and as strange as this may sound, it has been liberating. While I mourn and grieve the breakup of my marriage, as it is without a doubt the most painful and excruciating thing that has ever happened in my lifetime, I know it was necessary in order for me to grow and become a better man. I've been stuck for a long, long time. And if this is what it took to get me unstuck, well, then I have to look at it as a positive. Still doesn't take the hurt away because I still carry that every single day, but I know now that I can and will emerge a better man. This one is from Tommy, who was a little bit further along when he shared this with me. He says, Rachel, you should know that your knowledge and your teachings are absolutely life-changing. I continue to improve and feel better. I've kind of wondered and thought back at the idea of how long I have felt poorly about myself prior to starting your class or even the divorce process. Many of the thoughts and feelings I am recognizing are inside of me are not new from the divorce situation. I believe they are old and have probably been dragging me down for some time, even years. So it is possible to move past this regret. And men who do that do start to find a sense of gratitude. I think the first man here said it very well. It's not that the pain goes away or you're glad that you're divorced, right? We're not lying to your brain. It's just that you find that there is a really deep level of healing available to you if you take this opportunity to find it and do that work. So if you would like to kick regret, get past that regret and self-judgment and start doing the things that are actually going to move you towards feeling better and having healthy relationships in your future, then come with me into my free masterclass, How to Take Back Control of Your Life After Divorce. In that longer class, I'll teach you the same strategy that both of these clients use to move past regret, move past all of this painful self-judgment, and actually do the work of healing. The brain and the human nervous system might have a lot of inertia that keeps you stuck, and regret is just one of the ways that the brain does that. But inertia can actually be a good thing because it works both ways, right? An object at rest tends to stay at rest, but an object in motion tends to stay in motion. So the beginning, moving past that initial regret, making the choice to start taking action and moving that ball, getting it to roll, that's challenging. But it's worth doing because every action you take, every little step forward is moving that ball. And as it starts to pick up steam, inertia is going to take hold there too. And it's going to get easier as you keep doing this work. So do not give up. Small, consistent action is what is going to get you where you need to go. And if you keep taking those small actions each and every day, you will get to that inflection point where inertia of movement takes over and you start to feel better. So do the work, especially when you don't want to. All right, I'll see you over in the masterclass. Thanks for watching.